Dr. Smith.
Motion carries with all board members present voting yes.
Dr. Cotton, do you have items resulting from closed session?
Yes, Madam Chair. On the student matter, student number 1, I recommend extended long-term suspension under the conditions discussed.
I'll entertain a motion for approval. Moved by Dr. Walker. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. McCormick. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Dr. Smith.
Motion carries with all board members present voting yes.
Dr. Cotton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One more. The following administrative appointment is submitted for approval. Mrs. Shannon H. Filer, who's Area Vice President of Business Development, Amedisys Home Care. I knew I was going to have a challenge with that. To Program Administrator for Health Services, Edwards Wilson Center, present for your approval.
I'll entertain the motion for approval. Moved by Mr. Mercer. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Poole. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Dr. Smith.
Motion carries with all board members present voting yes.
Dr. Cotton, do you have any additional items?
No, Madam Chair. That's all for me this evening.
We will now move on to the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. At this time, we'll have a brief moment of silence, and afterward, I'll ask Lauren Leonard, a 4th grader from Deep Creek Central Elementary, to lead us in the pledge. Please stand as you are able.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you to Lauren, your mom, and your principal for being here with us tonight. We sure do appreciate you coming out when we know you could be at home after a long day at school. We are now moving on to awards and recognitions. The first item is the memorial resolution. Dr. Smith.
Thank you, Chair Swigert. At the request of the superintendent, I have prepared a resolution honoring the life and service of one of our esteemed employees, Mr. Brian Allen Bowerboom, who served as a physical education and health teacher at Great Bridge High School before his passing. We have several special guests who have joined us tonight for the presentation. So before I read the resolution, I would like to invite Mr. Jeff Johnson, principal of Great Bridge High School, to the podium to provide remarks.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. I'd like to invite Brian's wife, Stacy, and his daughter, Sarah, to the podium at this time. Stacy is also a teacher with Chesapeake Public Schools. Good afternoon, Chair Swigert, Vice Chair Mercer, members of the board, Dr. Cotton, superintendent staff. It is my pleasure to be here this afternoon to provide insight and celebrate a valued member of our Wildcat family, Brian Bowerboom, who unfortunately passed away on December 1st, 2023. My first experience with Brian was in 2019. I had a football coaching vacancy at Great Bridge High School and had heard he was interested in interviewing for the job. He previously was a successful football coach at Great Bridge from 2003 to 2007. A return sounded exciting. We posted the job and Brian applied along with a few other candidates. At that time, he was living in Florida and had been a college coach at Stetson University. I called him to set up an interview, and I said to Brian, "You live in Florida, so let's do this interview virtually to save you a trip from Florida to Virginia." He immediately responded that that would not work for him, and he felt it was important for him to come in and meet me in person and talk about the vacancy. I said, okay, so we set a date and a time. His insistence on meeting in person was an indicator of who Brian was as a person. He valued personal relationships and was fully committed to any job or task that he took on. On the day of the interview, I received a call on the radio stating that Brian was in the office and ready to go. Now, I'm not sure if any of you had the pleasure of meeting Brian. He was a big man, an intimidating man. He nearly had to duck and turn sideways to get through my office door. And I'm exaggerating a little bit, but after all, he was an offensive lineman in college at the University of Nebraska, under famed coach Tom Osborne. We closed my door and sat at my table in my office, worked through the interview questions, and talked about X's and O's. We also talked about kids and the importance of athletics in their lives. It was obvious to me that he was passionate about football, but more importantly, he was passionate about kids. In fact, a good portion of our conversation was based on supporting student athletes, and he had developed a system to do just that. His system, in lieu of naming team captains, was to create a leadership team among his players that would provide support for the athletes on the team. It didn't matter if they needed support with football, school, or personal issues. That group was always there for them. This was a process that later proved to be very successful. A few days after the interview, I hired Brian as our new coach. Things were looking up for the Wildcat football program. He quickly took over and established a family-like culture that I had not seen there in some time. He believed in doing things the right way. That was one of his many strengths. As the seasons and years moved on, the wins and losses did not reflect the value of our program. Brian instilled structure, teamwork, collaboration. These are qualities that will serve his players well for the remainder of their lives. We all miss Brian. He had a positive impact on so many of us during his tenure at Great Bridge High School. He motivated us all to work harder and to be better people. So I'd like to thank his wife, Stacy, and the entire Bowerboom family for sharing him with us for so long. We all realize and appreciate the time commitment he made to Great Bridge High School and to our football program. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Madam Chair, at this time I'll read the resolution. Be it known to all persons that we, the members of the Chesapeake School Board, here assembled on this 26th day of February 2024, do hereby pay tribute to the life and memory of Mr. Brian Allen Bowerboom. Whereas Mr. Bowerboom graduated from the University of Nebraska in 1992 with a bachelor's degree in physical education, health, and coaching, then continued his education at Trinity College and University, where in 2002 he received a master's degree in physical education. Whereas during his career in education, Mr. Bowerboom taught physical education and health at various schools across the United States, including Great Bridge High School. And whereas he used his talents as a former football player to serve as the head football coach at Great Bridge High School from 2003 through 2007 and 2018 to 2021. And whereas his greatest love in teaching was the role of mentoring young athletes and connecting the life lessons of football to the personal growth of his students. And he was highly esteemed by his colleagues, students, and friends as an invaluable asset to the school system and to the community. Now therefore, be it resolved that we, the members of the school board of the City of Chesapeake, do gratefully acknowledge his service to the school system and extend to his family our heartfelt sympathy at his passing. And be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be made a part of the minutes of this date and the original presented to his family as evidence of our esteem and reverence for the memory of Mr. Brian Allen Bowerboom. Madam Chair, this resolution is attested by each member of the school board, and at this time I respectfully request adoption.
I'll entertain a motion made by Mr. Lamonia. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Mercer. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Dr. Smith.
Motion carries with all board members present voting yes. Mr. Johnson, would you please escort Mr. Bowerboom's family to meet the board?
Ms. Bowerboom, we certainly thank you for your presence here tonight, and we do extend our deepest sympathies to your family and know that our thoughts and prayers are with you. We are now moving on with awards and recognitions, the last item being recognition of VHSL Fall Chesapeake Champions. Back to Dr. Smith.
Thank you, Chair Swigert. Tonight, we are recognizing our Fall Chesapeake champions, and at this time, I would like to invite Mr. Kevin Cole, our Supervisor of Student Activities and Facility Use, to the podium. He will facilitate the awards for these students. I'll also ask Chair Swigert and Superintendent Cotton to join me at the awards table for the presentation.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Cotton, and members of the superintendent staff, good evening. Tonight we are here to recognize Chesapeake champions for the Virginia High School League Fall 2023 season. As a reminder to parents, we are photo friendly, so please feel free to move forward and get that perfect picture. Chesapeake Public Schools had several fall athletes in the 2023 season who were selected first team All-State. Athletes, when I call your name, please step forward. Riley Pierce, Reese Chalou, Kylie Williams, and Madison Stepney. These ladies are from Great Bridge High School, and they were selected to the first team All-State for competition cheer in Group 5. With them tonight are their coaches, Ms. Tara Cannon, Ms. Taylor Osborne, and Ms. Ashley Crook. Sophie Culpepper. Sophie is from Hickory High School, and she was also selected to the first team All-State for competition cheer in Group 5. With her tonight is her coach, Mr. Chris Boykin. Reagan Davis. Reagan is from Grassfield High School, and she was selected to the first team All-State for competition cheer in Group 6. With her tonight is her coach, Ms. Dusty Todd. Jordan Harris. Jordan is from Indian River High School, and he was selected to the first team All-State in the sport of football as a defensive player in Group 5. With him tonight is his coach, Mr. Brandon Carr. Congratulations to all of you, and at this time, please move to your right to meet the members of the board and the superintendent staff. Madam Chair, this concludes my presentation.
We will now move on to the public hearing. Dr. Smith, are there any citizens who have requested to speak under the public hearing section this evening?
Yes, Chair Swigert, we did have one citizen call and request to speak under the public hearing for the budget, but that person appears to be a no-show.
Thank you. We will now move on to the hearing of citizens. During their allotted time, speakers should observe our rules of decorum and know that expressions of concerns and criticism on matters of school policy and operations is welcome. While the speaker's own comments are welcome, they may not play pre-recorded messages. Dr. Smith, are there any citizens who requested time to speak under this category this evening?
Yes, ma'am, we have 3 citizens requesting to speak.
I want to thank those speakers who have signed up to address the board this evening. There are 2 ways that citizens can request time to speak at the meeting. They can call the clerk's office before the time of 12 noon the day of the meeting, or sign up to speak prior to the start of the meeting. All in-person requests to speak must be submitted to the deputy clerk 5 minutes prior to the published meeting start time. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the board. Once your allotted time is over, we ask that you promptly exit the podium. You may choose to sit in the boardroom if seats are available, but standing or sitting on the floor will not be permitted, and you may not block the exit doors. We would also like to ask that you refrain from any behavior that disrupts the meeting, including the use of profanity, applause, cheering, or jeering. Dr. Smith, please call the first speaker.
Yes, it appears that speaker number 1 is a no-show, so I'd like to invite speaker number 2 to the podium. Speakers are called in numerical order and are asked to state their name and city of residence before they begin.
Okay. My name is Brittany Johnson. I'm a Chesapeake resident. I am the president of Western Branch Intermediate PTA. As proud parents and current board members of the PTA, we stand before you specifically requesting a projected timeline for our school to receive updated playground equipment and overall enhancements to the surrounding area. Our students have consistently upheld the standards of our school and the CPS system, and they deserve to enjoy their recess and special activities on playground equipment that is modern, safe, fun, and reflects the value that we see in each of them. Playgrounds exist as spaces where kids build a sense of community, learn important social skills, navigate physical capabilities, and have in space that they take pride in will promote more unity and healthy engagement as they relate to others. Students inquire daily about the playground to teachers, staff, and to our PTA, leaving us at a loss for words. To date, our administration tells us we've consistently heard you're on a list, with no substantive date for groundbreaking. This is beyond concerning to the WBI community, and it's disappointing. Western Branch Intermediate is home to almost 800 third, fourth, and fifth graders. And as you can see from this printout, this is the playground they share. 3 small slides, which the PTA paid $8,000 last year to make them usable, a small grid of rusted chain to climb, and 2 little drums. The playground is outdated and not adequate for a class of 24 to use at the same time, much less multiple classes of various grade levels. There's an open space as well for students to play. As you can see, the grounds are not well kept. They do not drain. There are no sidewalks to get to and from the play area, and they do not offer many options for our children to run and participate in activities. The PTA has provided outdoor equipment such as balls and jump ropes to help offer a variety of activities. But if the grounds are not in good shape, they cannot use this equipment that we have provided. Why isn't providing these materials to our students a priority of the school system? Why has it been years of teachers paying for these supplies and now parents paying for them through our fundraising efforts to give our kids the bare minimum with little to no concern from our city leaders? According to an article in December 2022 publication of SSM Mental Health, children who live or have access near parks and playgrounds have better mental health than those who do not. Another study done by UC Davis in May of 23, researchers found that being outside can improve thinking and reasoning, improve physical wellness, and decrease anxiety, stress, and feelings of anger. In a time when our society has moved to using so much technology, even the majority of the average Chesapeake Public School student learning and testing being done on computers, there's never been a more important time to provide these green spaces and playgrounds to our children for their mental health. Society cannot afford for us to neglect these growing children. Some of these students, especially the 5th graders, have never had a playground for most of their elementary career. What is holding up this process? Why have we not received more effective communication regarding the situation coming from the district? We'd greatly appreciate to learn how we can work together to help.
Thank you. Your time's completed. Thank you.
Speaker number 3, you're invited to the podium. Please state your name and city of residence before you begin.
My name is Delma Forbes, and I live in Chesapeake, Virginia. I retired from driving school bus, the large bus, a few years back, and I know that there was a need for drivers, and I was asked to drive short bus. I'm there every day. Short bus drivers get paid by the hour. They don't get paid because they're not contracted, but it has been brought to a lot of us our attention that the large bus drivers have gotten a raise this year, and they also got a bonus a couple weeks ago. And that bonus that was given out not only affects short bus drivers, but it affects custodians, it affects bus aides. I'm there every day, and if it's snow, we don't get paid. If it's a holiday like everybody else, we don't get paid because we're not contracted. I'm dependable. I'm just as important as my fellow workers. And they work hard, they do. Some of them do 2 and 3 people's jobs. But I'm dependable too. And I feel like we've been overlooked, we're unappreciated. I even drove summer school 3 years ago because they were so desperate for drivers. And they said I'd be based on my experience. I got back in a big bus just like I'd never left it. Drove every day. You didn't get paid until the end of summer school because they wanted to make sure you were there every day. I didn't find out till the end of summer school I was getting paid $11 an hour. I could have worked at Chick-fil-A for $16 in the AC and got free lunch every day. What does the city do to keep their people? We had a driver to quit a week and a half ago because of this problem. I've heard other people have left. I heard a lot of people are going to leave. There's a need here, and it's not being addressed. So I just want you to be aware because I know how bad y'all need people. I hear it on the radio every day about people doing 2 and 3 people's jobs. And I love the kids, and the kids love us, but, you know, some of them have to wait in the cold. Some of them have to wait in the rain. It's not fair. So I just pray that, you know, y'all will take a look at these people that, like me, are getting paid by the hour and I've been there 4 years and haven't got a raise. And you know what the economy's like. You know what groceries are like. You know what utilities are like. So I just appreciate your time, and I thank you.
This concludes our speakers for this evening.
Thank you for sharing your comments. Our practice is to receive information. However, we do not usually engage in dialogue, and that is our intent tonight. If appropriate and not already provided, someone from the superintendent's staff will evaluate your concern and provide a response. We will now move on to the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion for approval. Moved by Mr. Lamonia. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Poole. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Dr. Smith.
Motion carries with all board members present voting yes.
We are now moving on to the information agenda. The first item is the monthly financial report. Ms. Lucente.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In your packet, you have a financial letter for the month of January. We received about $50.6 million. Again, most of our funds are coming from the state and the local government. The remaining funds came from federal sources, either impact aid or Medicaid reimbursements. Our enrollment is still below projection. You'll see later that the original estimate for the shortfall in the state was about 930, but it's down to about 918,000 now. Our expenditures are getting a little tight because of increased costs and everything and additional overtime. So we are monitoring everything, and there's no additional funds coming from the governor's caboose bill that are going to significantly affect this. So we're just going to keep monitoring, but we are in about the same situation we've been in for the last couple months.
Thank you. The next item is the superintendent's proposed operating categorical and special funds budget. Back to you, Ms. Lucente.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'm going to pass it to Ms. Melissa Gallard. She's the Director of Budget, and she will give you a presentation and update on the House and the Senate budgets.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Swigert, Vice Chair Mercer, and school board members. Tonight's presentation provides an update on the latest budget information from the state, followed by a review of the upcoming schedule of budget-related meetings. Let's get started with the state budget update. The General Assembly's crossover day is the day that bills must pass a full vote and the chamber is started so they can move forward to the other chamber for consideration. This year's crossover was on February 13th, and we have completed our review of the House and Senate Appropriations Committee budget amendments to the governor's proposed budget. While new revenue calculation tools are not available from the DOE, we have used available materials to estimate the state revenue impact to the current fiscal year 23-24 and the superintendent's proposed fiscal year 24-25. In a few short weeks, the General Assembly's long session is expected to end on March 9th. At that time, we are hopeful to see a consensus reached on budget amendments for Governor Youngkin's consideration. First, we'll take a look at the current fiscal year 23-24. The proposed amendments provide no significant changes to the governor's caboose bill. The expected shortfall in revenue continues to be estimated at $918,000 from November's amended appropriations. As we move ahead, we will continue to monitor sales tax receipts and their impact on the current fiscal year's 23-24 revenue projections. Now, we'll shift to fiscal year 24-25 state budget update. In this table, a comparison of the House and Senate proposed budget amendments is made to Governor Youngkin's proposed budget. As a reminder, the superintendent's proposed operating budget is based on the governor's proposed budget. So the House and Senate proposed amendments outlined here will impact the superintendent's proposed operating budget in expenditures as well as revenues if they move forward to the governor. There we go. Sorry. The first row highlights the Senate's proposal to remove the support position cap used in basic aid funding that was implemented in response to the 2008 recession. The Senate proposes support positions to be funded based on prevailing costs rather than a funding calculation that caps the number of funded support positions. Next is sales tax. The governor's budget adjusts to account for changes in state tax. However, the details used, including rates and base, are limited. The House appears to assume the same tax assumptions, but the Senate proposes a modification to sales tax to further account for a sales tax base expansion. Additionally, the governor's proposed budget excludes a supplement that has been in place in fiscal year 23-24 to offset the reduction in sales tax distributions resulting from the exemption of sales tax on groceries and personal hygiene products since January 1st, 2023. The Senate proposes an amendment to keep the supplement in place. The governor's proposed budget and the House and Senate proposed amendments include technical updates. More specifically, the governor's technical updates are for budget variables such as sales tax revenues, lottery proceeds, student enrollment, and program utilization. The House and Senate make additional technical updates to algebra readiness and alternative education. For compensation, the governor's budget proposes a one-time 1% retention bonus for SOQ staff effective July 1st. Both the House and Senate eliminate the bonus and replace it with salary adjustments as part of a plan to raise teacher pay to the national average over the next few years. The House proposes a 3.375% adjustment effective July 1st, while the Senate proposes a 3% adjustment effective October 1st. The House proposal, if ultimately included in the final budget proposal, would result in adjusting the starting teacher salary to $55,373, and the Senate proposal would not require an increase over the starting teacher salary of $55,185 currently included in the superintendent's proposed budget. Continuing with the comparisons, the House and Senate also proposed modifications to at-risk funding for students who are educationally at risk. The proposals vary from one another by applying different funding methodologies based on the differences you see here. The House and Senate bills propose amendments to English learner staffing. The House proposes tiered staffing ratios per student based on proficiency levels, and the Senate proposes to increase the EL staffing standard to 22 positions per 1,000 students. For reference, the current EL staffing standard is 20 positions per 1,000 students. Last on the list is reading specialists. The governor's proposed budget provides additional funding to support an increase in the standard for reading specialist staffing through the 8th grade. The House and Senate proposals support his addition. While holding projected ADM constant at 39,452, the proposed House amendments result in $5.9 million increase in revenues from the superintendent's proposed operating revenues. The proposed Senate amendments result in a $20.2 million increase to the superintendent's proposed operating revenues. This slide provides the impact of each chamber's proposed amendments to the division's state revenues by revenue category. I will take a minute to highlight the proposed amendments with the greatest impact. Beginning with the Senate, the proposed elimination of the support cap increases basic aid revenues by $7.3 million. The continuation from the supplemental payment in lieu of food and hygiene tax increases revenues by $2.9 million. The 3% compensation adjustment, net of the governor's 1% bonus, yields $3.4 million in revenue, and the modification in at-risk funding increases revenue by $4.9 million. Now shifting to the House, the 3.375% compensation adjustment, net of the governor's 1% bonus, increases revenue by $3.8 million, and the modification in at-risk funding increases revenue by $2.2 million. Several of the proposed amendments would also require adjustments to the superintendent's proposed operating expenditures. Looking specifically at the Senate column, the 3% compensation increase will have no impact. EL teachers will increase by 4, impacting expenditures by $378,000. And if a local match is required on the at-risk funding increase, at-risk expenditures would need to increase by $7.3 million. The balance of $12.6 million would remain to be allocated should the Senate version be included in the final budget. Turning to the House column, the 3.375% compensation increase will increase expenditures by $1.5 million. EL expenditures will decline by $73,000. And again, if there's a local match requirement, at-risk expenditures would increase by $3.2 million, leaving a balance of $1.3 million to allocate if the House version is in the final budget. Taking a look at grants, the governor's proposed budget includes grant funding for the Diploma Plus program to be allocated across the states. The program allows students to earn industry-recognized credentials in addition to their diplomas upon graduation. However, both the House and Senate both eliminated this proposal. The Senate proposes an additional grant to authorize the Department of Education to offer school construction loans from the Literary Fund. To access this funding, if it becomes a part of the state budget, the division will need to apply for it and may or may not be awarded it. The last proposal is an exciting one from the Senate. It is $2 million to support the development of the Career Academies of Chesapeake, which would replace the current Chesapeake Career Center. Unused funds that remain in the first year may be carried forward into the second year. Pending a final General Assembly budget, the groundwork will be set to begin finalizing the board's proposed budget. On March 11th, a second public hearing will be held, and the administration will seek the board's adoption of the proposed fiscal year 24-25 budget and request action for the use of one-time funds. Both requests will be forwarded to the city for inclusion in the manager's budget proposal for council consideration. Finally, after council appropriation on May 20th, modifications will be presented, if any, from the City Council's May 2024 budget appropriation. It will conclude with the board's final reconciliation and adoption of the fiscal year 24-25 budget. Thank you for your time this evening. I'm going to pass it to Dr. Cotton for final remarks.
Thank you, Mrs. Glaude. Madam Chair, members of the board, I just wanted to point out, based on what we're hearing from the House and the Senate, we anticipate that we'll get additional funding somewhere between the $5 million and $20 million. So certainly if we do get additional funding, I just wanted to mention there are a few areas that we're going to prioritize, because obviously I'll have to come back to the board to discuss how that money will be utilized or recommended to be utilized. A particular area of interest for us is to address salaries and maybe do some more with our salaries. In particular, moving to the unified scale. As you know, we're moving our support staff and administrators to the unified scale. There's going to be some compression issues that are going to occur because we're increasing the minimum wage to $15. What we're going to find is some compression within that scale that we'll want to do more with if we get additional funding. So that will certainly be a priority for us to address. We also want to maybe increase the sheriff deputies program, which we have in our elementary schools. As I've told many of you, that if we do get some additional funds, we would like to expand that program even more because that's been so successful in our elementary schools. And of course, we also are continuing to look at stipends that our valued employees receive for doing extra duties. And there's some stipends that we weren't able to yet address. So those are just a few areas that we are looking at. But I just wanted to mention that if we do get additional funding, which would be a great thing, then we need to come back and talk about ways that we want to apply those moving forward. So I just wanted to mention those. And at this time, we're just sharing with you information we've received. We don't know which way it's going to go. We certainly anticipate and are hopeful that we'll get additional funding, but we're happy to answer any questions from the board members at this time.
Mr. Mercer?
Yeah, Ms. Clark, Dr. Cotton, one of you. I happened to notice on the printout when we got to CCC that the Senate has a version and the House doesn't. What happened there? Do you know? Did they just not, did it not make the cut?
We don't have an update on that. Dr. Smith, are you aware of any updates on that?
No, I think we've been talking to our representatives, and unfortunately, the House side didn't make it in. But we're holding out hope that it's not final yet, so we'll see what happens in the end.
Okay. It looks to me like there's a wide gulf here between House and Senate, and it's going to be a difficult thing to reconcile on everything.
Dr. Walker?
Yeah, Dr. Cotton, you mentioned the Sheriff Deputies Program, and that led me to kind of a question I had to follow up from the last session. I was curious if you could share what the breakdown is for the expenses that we have for that program specifically, besides just the salaries and benefits of the deputies.
Sure, I'm going to pass that to Dr. Miller, who's been very involved in that program. Just before she gives some numbers, there was startup costs that we incurred because we did have to purchase vehicles, and so that was a cost for startup of the program. But then there's an ongoing cost per deputy, and of course we've added a supervisor moving forward. But Dr. Miller has some actual numbers she can share. Dr. Miller?
Thank you, Dr. Cotton. Dr. Walker, what I've done is I've broken down the information for 2023-24, as Dr. Cotton shared with you about the startup costs. And then also I've broken it down for the 24-25 school year. Originally, we are providing the SROs with vehicles, and those vehicles, they have to be retrofitted a certain type of way for the sheriff's deputies. And so that cost for the 4 vehicles is $163,853. And then the SRO salaries are included in that at $76,056 at a total of $608,444. For the total for this current school year, we are going to incur a cost of $772,297 for this current school year. Now, we'll share with you that the sheriff's deputies did have a supervisor that we utilized this year that was a part of the sheriff's office, and we were not incurring that cost. In the upcoming school year, we will have to incur the cost of that sheriff's deputy. So this upcoming year, if we continue with our 8 sheriff's deputies, that cost, and they did get a raise, an increase, so that cost this upcoming year will be $81,775 per deputy at a total cost of $655,200. This year encumbering, next year encumbering that supervisor, one supervisor, that will cost us $104,444, which will give us a grand total for the expenditures for next year at $758,645.
Thank you.
There are no other costs associated with the program.
Okay.
We provide them with the laptop computers and office space, etc.
So salaries and benefit is basically what we're paying moving forward. then.
Absolutely.
Okay. Sweet. Thank you so much for that explanation. I think that's a great thing we've done. We've gotten so much good feedback surrounding that, but I was just curious about the breakdown for all this.
And the sheriff's office does provide the equipment as well as training, so that's been
Awesome.
very positive that we do not incur any costs for those.
Thank you.
Mr. Poole?
Do we incur the cost of that vehicle maintenance?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Can you? Oh, it's my first day on the job. No. No, do we incur the cost on those maintenance of those vehicles?
That's a good question. They are coming to us from the sheriff's deputy office, so that's a question I would have to get back to you on, Mr. Poole. Since they haven't arrived yet, so we haven't crossed that bridge with this being new, but I'll find that answer out for you.
Thank you.
I don't believe I see any additional questions at this time, so thank you for that report. The last item on the information agenda is the health insurance update. Ms. Lucente.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. We're going to have a two-part presentation. I'm going to do the beginning, and then Ms. Christina Warren, who's the Director of Benefits, Employee Benefits and Risk Management, is going to take over towards the end to talk about proposals for the 25 plan year. So again, the agenda is we're going to look at the budget approval and its relationship to employee benefits, the 25 projected premiums, and then Mrs. Warren will take over on options and recommendations. Again, we've seen this slide before. The philosophy on employee benefits at the school division is, number one, we have to comply with laws. So we have to comply with the ACA as far as the eligibility and affordability, and we are fine with that. We have traditionally provided at least 2 health plan options for the employees, the active employees. And the last couple of years, it's been 3 as we've tried different options to try to control costs. Within the ACA tiers, which is the employee only and the employee plus children, the division's made an overt decision to not drive employees to a particular plan by making the employee contribution to premiums be much better in one plan than in another plan. A lot of times employers will drive employees to a particular plan in order to control costs by how they set their premiums and their contributions. Chesapeake does not do that. We will continue to provide a wellness credit for our actives and retirees, continue to provide spousal coverage, and continue to provide retiree coverage. Those are the operating rules we've had for the last, since 1960, I guess. Budget approval and employee benefits are tied but not tied. When you approve the budget, what you're approving is the allocation of the funds within each funding source, the operating budget, the grants, the school nutrition plan, and the use of self-insurance funds to provide the employer's contribution towards health insurance. So you're not approving the actual premiums, you're approving the contribution. Okay, and the fiscal year budget, as Mrs. Glott has mentioned in a previous presentation, a fiscal year and a plan year overlap. So a fiscal year encompasses 2 different plan years, and we pay premiums over 10 months instead of 12 months. So September to December is the current year for, well, we're talking about 24-25. So 24-25 is September to December of this plan year, and then January to June of next plan year. The current budgeted allocations can be impacted if between now and spring we get an updated trend number that is either higher or lower than what we use to build budget. That would affect the premium the setting of the premiums. If we did or chose to make a benefit plan design change, that would also affect the premium. So the 25 plan year has no plan year changes as far as coverage. But there are, as you'll see later with the trend, the cost is mostly on the employer. The 2025 plan year for retirees, that information generally gets brought back in the summer. They're still looking at that information. Our cost is capped by the contributions per Regulation 842. That's our retiree health care benefit. So regardless of what the premium is, the maximum we pay for a pre-65 retiree is $950 a month, and the maximum we pay for a post-65 retiree is $200 per month. So that number only varies by the number of people covered within each one of those types of plans. For dental, there's no plan design change, no change in premiums. The health insurance plan, the projected trend is 13.5% right now. The trend for 24 was 11.5%. So the trend for 25 is currently projected at 13.5%. So our enrollment, contracts is enrollments. That's not the same as the number of employees. So we have the 3 plans, the PPO High, which has 331 people in it, contracts rather. The HMO has 4,002, that's our largest plan. It used to be our PPO was our largest plan. And the PPO Basic has 458 contracts in it. Because we have double tiers, a double employee tier means the employee and their spouse are both school system employees. Same thing with the double family tier. So the actual number of employees, if you counted them by contracts, is 4,960 employees. So over 80% of our employees take one of our health insurance plans. The first 2 tiers are ACA required coverage, and as you can see, 49% of ours are employee only or double employee. That's the employee only required offering. And then our employee plus children and double family is about 26% of our enrollment. The portion that is not mandated by ACA is the employee plus spouse and employee plus family, and you can see that's about 25% of our enrollment. The active costs for health, dental, pharmacy, clinic, and the wellness credits, this is just the actives, this does not include the retirees, is about $95.6 million. The employees will provide $11.7 million, and you'll see the increases or changes from 24 per pay period amounts to 25 per pay period amounts. So the balance of $83.9 million is paid for completely by the school system, either through operating budget contributions, school nutrition fund contributions, grant contributions, or use of self-insurance fund balance. So we have to cover that $83.9 million somehow. The other 11.7 is covered by the employees. The health plan premiums are all actuarially based, which means the HMO stands by itself, PPO Basic stands by itself, and the PPO High stands by itself. Also, within each of those plans, the tiers are actuarially related, so that if people move between plans and between tiers, we're not going to hopefully get a shock as far as total claims cost, because everything is actuarially determined. So if somebody moves from the HMO to the PPO, which is a higher reimbursement rate, the costs are already built into that difference in premium. What you see here, oh, that wasn't supposed to have, we have a hanging E that's not supposed to be there, so I apologize. The first column, the PY24 PPD, is the per pay period amounts for the current plan year, the one we just started in January. You'll see the PPO Basic, which is our ACA plan, the HMO premium, or HMO sets, and the PPO High, and the number of contracts under each one is shown. The way the premiums have been built, Chesapeake Public Schools absorbs 100% of the trend increase on the ACA tiers, which is employees and employee plus children, and we're covering 63% of the trend increase on the spousal tiers. So the increases on the spousal and family tier are $50 across all the spousal tiers, and then $75 on the family tiers. And again, these do not include the wellness credit, which would reduce some of those costs for the employee. So apparently Google doesn't go well when you do this, so I apologize, because we have a hanging zero, 2 hanging zeros. Okay, so now I'm going to switch to Mrs. Warren, who will give you some information and suggestions about the 25 plan year recommendations.
Good evening. So as Ms. Lucente mentioned, we currently offer 3 health plans to active employees. The HMO plan, as she mentioned, has the highest enrollment, and we've seen a shift in enrollment between the 2 PPO plans. Enrollment in the PPO basic plan has been increasing, while enrollment in the PPO high plan has been decreasing. This slide is a snapshot of the plan designs for the 3 health plans we currently offer. The full plan summaries and side-by-side comparison of all 3 plans is available on our benefits website, which I linked here. The 2 PPO plans are the same except for the out-of-pocket maximums and the premiums, which was outlined by Ms. Lucente. The premiums for the PPO basic are lower, while the out-of-pocket maximum is higher. The PPO high plan has higher premiums but lower out-of-pocket maximums. For 2025, we are proposing to offer only 2 health plans, an HMO and a PPO. This proposed change is based on the shift of enrollment from the PPO high to the PPO basic and the similar plan design of the 2 current PPO plans. The PPO basic will be renamed to PPO, and there will be no other recommended plan design changes for the HMO or the PPO. So, in terms of employee premium impact, we have outlined the per pay period changes for the current high PPO members to migrate to one of the 2 proposed options for 2025. Currently, there are 331 employees in that PPO high plan who will need to make a choice between the HMO or this new PPO plan that we previously are calling the PPO basic for the 2025 plan year. In both migration scenarios, these members will see a decrease in premium or no change at all. In addition, these per pay period amounts do not reflect the wellness credits that Ms. Lucente had also mentioned. Employees can receive $20 extra in a premium reduction if they complete the health risk assessment and the biometric screenings through our health centers. If the current PPO high enrollees choose to move to the basic PPO plan or this new HMO plan, it's estimated to result in over $400,000 combined savings for employees and $75,000 savings to Chesapeake Public Schools. This change will allow us to continue offering the same high level of benefits while simplifying the plan offerings and reducing confusion for our employees and new hires joining the division. Thank you for your time, and we'll be available for questions.
Mr. Mercer?
I promise you I'm not going to be bad, but I have a question. And, okay. The PPO, that includes the retirees, right? That number doesn't include the retirees?
We do offer a PPO to the retirees, but this is specifically for actives.
Is it just one PPO for retirees?
Yes, we have the high deductible, the HMO, and the PPO for retirees.
Will we be going down to the one PPO for them?
There's no plan design changes in place or being discussed for retirees for next year yet.
Because the reason I ask that is if you're not in the HMO area, and a lot of our retirees have moved other places, they have to almost go on the PPO in order to be covered.
And that is true, and I'm glad you brought that up because the Anthem has recently changed some of the network structure for the HMO, and they have a blue card PPO program now. So if you're out of the area, there is actually some coverage available if you're outside of Virginia in the HMO plan.
Will we be transmitting that information before they have to make the decision to some of our retirees that are out of the area?
Yes, sir. We did actually communicate that last year.
I'm not a retiree yet, so I don't know.
It's okay.
It might be coming.
So.
But not a retiree yet.
The PPO, and you're correct. I mean, that's a good point to bring up with the network. But the PPO, of course, has a much broader network. So some folks choose to, if they travel a lot, they're more comfortable with that. But the HMO has come a long way in terms of network access. So it's not just like you have to stay within the Hampton Roads area or anything like that.
That's good to know. Thank you.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Mr. McCormick?
Has the employee contribution changed over time as costs have gone up, or has that stayed fixed for a while?
So
For many, many years, the employees did not have any increase. Since the creation of the Affordable Care Act and the impacts of OPEB, we've had to do some small changes to employees' contributions. The decision was made a couple of years ago to not differentiate between employee plans, and we also made a decision to basically absorb the increases on our employees so that we, our employees on the ACA tiers didn't see any increase. So the last couple of years, we've had increases on the spousal tiers. So as we pointed out on that one slide, we're absorbing the increase for the employees on the ACA tiers and absorbing most of the increase on the spousal tiers. So there have been increases in the past. Some have been more painful than others. Some have been non-existent for many years. But we're getting to a point where the fund balance is getting a little too, not deep enough, so that we're going to have to start increasing premiums, mostly on the spouses and families, because we're absorbing that cost for our employees. It's a long answer.
I think that answers it. Is that something we've looked at doing this year, or is it, have we not increased the contributions or going into next year in the proposed health insurance premiums?
We didn't look at increasing them for the two ACA tiers. If you go back here, for the last couple of years, I don't think we've had increases on any place except the spouses and families. And those are smaller increases than have been in the past. But there have been increases on these two tiers, but not in the last few years on the employee only. Can we do that? That's a decision that the board can make, but it's also been a competitive advantage for Chesapeake in hiring, between our salaries and the fact that our cost for any of our plans is substantially lower than most other employers. I don't know, you can do that if that's what you want to do, but again, it's part of total compensation. So we can give it to you in your salary, or we can give it to you in your benefits.
And any savings that would be, I guess, accomplished through increase in premiums that would go right back to the operating budget, is that right?
Any increase in the employee contributions would be a decrease in the employer contributions. So yes, you would free up funds in the operating budget, or wherever the funds are budgeted.
Got it. All right, thank you.
That was where you were going.
That was it.
Mr. Mercer?
Yeah, we have tried at certain points to keep a certain percentage, though, that is paid by the employer
Yes.
and the employee.
We are still at the over 80%.
Over
yes.
80%. So that's been a goal that has been there, that
For a
I
long
haven't
time.
always agreed with, but
Yeah.
still it's been there, and I've understood the goal that's there. And it's and I just want Mr. McCormick to hear that, because while we have a better plan than, well, I think we do have the best plan. Maybe Norfolk is second of the school systems in the area. It has been a good recruitment tool for us. And if we were ever going to change this, it should have been last year when there was significant raises that were given. If we're talking about 3% this year, I think that's not the time to look at changing it, because, I won't get into my tirade, but it's not against you tonight.
It's not
because,
personal, it's okay.
Because I think there needs to be a realization that when you increase these charges for the employer, it affects that person who's clerical or bus driver or cafeteria worker a higher percent of their total salary than it does a superintendent or a principal or someone that's at the top of the scale. And that's where I have to wrestle with it, Mr. McCormick, is where the very people that we're custodial staff and other things that we're looking at trying to keep through these bonuses that we've had. And, you know, no good deed goes unpunished. We've seen that tonight. But it takes away when we start raising these premiums. So, you know, I've been kind of Don Quixote along the years, and I hate that we're going to be without Jocelyn anymore because you're going to be retiring.
I can come visit.
Okay, but that's kind of the reasoning that I've always had on trying to keep these rates as low as possible. Is not so much for those that it's going to take away from them, but those that it's really going to take away
Right.
from the cost.
Yeah, there have been years in the past, even before the downturn, but especially in the downturn that occurred in '08, where we couldn't give a raise. And in all prior years up until, I don't know, maybe '08, maybe was the year that we had to start passing it along because we couldn't absorb it. The revenues were starting to decline, and health insurance is going to go up every year, and you're looking at, you know, $5 to $7 million a year that you're going to pick up. So as Mr. Mercer says, when you increase, like if you look at that $21 on the ACA plan, if someone gets their wellness credit, they're paying $1 per pay period, which is basically free insurance for them. So it's a good recruiting tool that HR uses frequently. But again, when you pass off a significant dollar increase, he's right, the percentage of someone's raise at the lower end of our scales, they could almost wipe out their raise with their increases in health insurance, which is something that we've been trying to avoid. And that's part of how we got to this, so that we didn't care which plan you were in. You could pick whichever one you want, because in a typical setting, your PPO basic would be the one you would drive people to, and your HMO would have a higher employee cost, and then your PPO would have the highest, because you would drive them away from those two plans. But that's not what Chesapeake has chosen to do over the last several years.
One last question. Have we completely done away with the health spending account?
Yes, that was with the HDHP plan that became the PPO basic.
Because I think if I was young starting out in the system and relatively healthy, that would have been where I would have invested my money. It's a great deal.
Yeah, we were surprised that we couldn't get a lot of traction with employees here. But again, it's mainly because of the military presence in TRICARE. And if they have an HDHP at their employer, they can't be a spouse on ours and also have it.
I don't believe I see any additional questions, so thank you for that update. We are now moving on to the action agenda, the VSBA's upcoming Hot Topic Conference. Dr. Smith.
Thank you, Chair Swigert. I would like to share an opportunity with the board. The Virginia School Boards Association is hosting its Hot Topic Conference in April online this year. If there's a board member who wishes to attend, please raise your hand. Seeing none, this concludes that item.
The last item on the action agenda is the VSBA Spring Networking Forum. Again, Dr. Smith.
Yes, the VSBA is having a Spring Regional Networking Forum April 25th in Portsmouth. If there is a board member who wishes to attend, this is an in-person conference, please raise your hand. I see Reverend Mr. Tom Mercer, School Board Vice Chair, would like to attend. I'll need a motion for approval.
I'll entertain the motion. Moved by Mr. Poole. Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Scott. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All opposed? Dr. Smith.
Motion carries with all board members present voting yes.
We'll now move on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Cotton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's hard to believe March is almost here, and we have several upcoming celebrations in March, including Women's History Month, Youth Art and Music in Our Schools Month, VSBA Equity and Education Month, and National Reading Month. So I know many of you are going to be invited to read to several classrooms in the next few weeks. And at this time, we look forward to sharing our spotlight as we wrap up the month of February. There has been a lot to love about the work our students and staff have been doing. And as always, it's my pleasure tonight to have the opportunity to share all of these great happenings with you. It's hard to believe how quickly time flies. On February 13th, our students and staff celebrated the 100th day of school. And if you don't know it, in an elementary school, that's a big deal, the 100th day of school. It was exciting to see the celebrations take place across the district as students and teachers participated in themed spirit days and special lessons and activities all centered around the number 100. It's an important milestone for our students and staff each year, and we love to see them celebrate becoming 100 days smarter. At Western Branch Intermediate School, a generous grant from the Dollar Bank Foundation was put to good use with the purchase of a new book vending machine. The goal of the project is to encourage positive behaviors and foster a love of reading. We'd also like to thank the PTA for their contribution and collaboration and support of this incredible initiative for our Bruins. Some of our older Bruins also deserve a shout out tonight. 3 students from Western Branch Middle School, Carter Ward, Emma Butler, and Kayla Padlow, were all recently recognized as winners in the local Veterans of Foreign Wars Patriots Pen Scholarship Contest. Students wrote essays using the prompt, "How are you inspired by America?" Representatives from the District 2 VFW visited the school to present the awards and to recognize their teacher, Alexander Muller, for participating. Congratulations to these outstanding students. In honor of Virginia Kindness Week, Hickory Middle School showed their love for CHKD by holding a toy drive. The SCA and PTSA partnered to encourage the heartwarming display of kindness and love. In all, the community collected and donated over 650 toys to children in need. Wow, way to go, Hawks. Throughout the month of February, our schools have also continued to highlight, honor, and celebrate Black History Month in a variety of fun and creative ways. Many of these celebrations included performances by community members like Don and Tutu Harrell, who visited Portlock Primary School to dance and sing African folktales. We also saw incredible displays of the student talent at Oscar Smith High School during their Unity and Melody celebration, and at schools across the district, we saw students and faculty participate in themed spirit days and door decorating contests. Western Branch High School also celebrated Black History Month through a powerful performance honoring the Association for the Study of African American Life and History 2024 theme, African Americans and the Arts. Students interpreted the theme through song, dance, and spoken word. They held a performance for students and staff and invited the public to see their show last Friday night. This has been an ongoing tradition at Western Branch High School each February and also includes support from community and staff members. Speaking of support, I'd like to take an opportunity tonight to thank members of the school board and city council, along with staff from the city manager's office, who joined me and my leadership team in a visit to several schools this past Friday. While most of the time in my spotlight, I enjoy showing off the incredible work of our students and staff, these tours focused on a different goal that included sharing some of our greatest areas of need for modernization and improvement to our school buildings. I'd like to thank Carver Intermediate, Indian River Middle, and Crestwood Middle for hosting us and providing insight into how best we can improve these sites to meet some critical building and instructional needs. As you have seen in our recent budget discussions, many of these high-need projects currently remain unfunded. I'd like to thank Chair Swigert, Vice Chair Mercer, and board members Lamonia, McCormick, Scott, and Walker for joining me. I certainly hope you will agree that this was time well spent with our city leaders. To close tonight, we had one other very special recognition during the month of February. On February 15th, we celebrated our dedicated school security team and school resource officers. This group of individuals is an invaluable part of our team, and their work ensures that our students show up to school feeling safe and secure. In addition to the Chesapeake police officers who serve our middle and high schools, this year, as you heard earlier, was the first year that we have worked with the Chesapeake Sheriff's Office to provide SROs in our elementary schools. So far, the program has been a huge success, thanks in large part to the dedicated individuals like Deputy Jeff Mejia. Take a look.
with the Sheriff's Office for almost 19 years. School resource officer here at B.M. Williams Primary. I think the kids, probably the best part of it, obviously I think that's why we're all here. The transition from working in my previous unit has been pretty awesome. The teachers, the administration, they've made this experience pretty awesome.
Of course, as a principal, it's nice to have that feeling of security, that we have someone here looking out for us at all times. He's great with the kids. He enjoys interacting with them. He allows his presence to just let everybody feel safe on property.
He's doing a great job protecting our whole school.
Just bridge the gap. Be present, build a relationship with these kids that, law enforcement, we're here to help. We're here to keep the school safe.
Unfortunately, we do have to do threat assessments, and he offers another perspective, give us how he sees things, because we look at things educationally and he's looking at things from a safety, and he kind of keeps us all informed about what's going on in the community.
Thanks, sir. Mr. H should be coming back that way. Okay, cool.
He's just been excellent addition to our staff here. We consider him a part of the B.M. Williams family.
Thank you for protecting our school.
I think I saw Deputy Mejia here this evening when I first came in. I told him he's famous. Thank you again to all of our SSOs and SROs for the important work that you do to support our schools each and every day. Of course, the young man said it best. This concludes my spotlight for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Cotton. Last on our agenda this evening is board member items. Does any board member have an item to bring before the group? Ms. Scott.
Thank you. I know Dr. Cotton mentioned our school tours on Friday, which I really enjoyed, but I wanted to mention something that wasn't brought up on the spotlight. We had the opportunity to visit a music classroom, and I was so impressed when we walked into the classroom. Several students said, "Where's Mr. Cotton?" And so we called Mr. Cotton into the room, Dr. Cotton, excuse me, and they were so excited to see him, and he gave them fist bumps. But that really impressed me, the fact that we have students who know our superintendent by name and that actually want to see you in person and enjoy your company. That tells me that you're very present, and I think that that's noteworthy. I think that's something that the public doesn't get to see often. I was really happy that I got to see that as well, so kudos to you. I also wanted to give a shout out to the school nurse at Carver Intermediate. I was really impressed when I visited your clinic. You have truly maximized minimal space. You have a small space, but I was so impressed with how well organized your clinic was, and I think that you're doing a tremendous job. I know I walked away from the school tours with just a greater appreciation for our administrators, what you're doing on a daily basis. In some unideal situations, how you're utilizing the resources that you have, in some cases the minimal space that you have, the creative solutions that you're coming up with. I mean, I was just blown away. I'm so appreciative of you and the job that you're doing. And I just think that should be highlighted, and I just wanted you to know. And I think that's all I had. Thank you.
Mr. McCormick?
I really enjoyed visiting Carver and Indian River Middle and Crestwood Middle, but it also was eye-opening to see some of those aging schools. I think they're all over 50 years old, 50 to 70 years old. The amount of capital needs that we have, and seeing them in person, and I'm glad City Council got to, or at least part of City Council got to see some of that. In going through the budget and talking about health insurance premiums and contributions, it's clear that the amount of unfunded capital need is probably not going to be met fully by city funds or state funds, and it's going to take some tough decisions on the school board and the school administration to really look at where we can cut costs. For example, the $80 million gap we have between the cost of health insurance versus the contributions that we're receiving. Obviously we can't cut that in full, and we don't want to put the burden of all of our capital needs on our employees, but in areas like that where we may have to find some money to allocate to our operating budget in order to meet some of these capital needs, we need to really start thinking about those tough decisions and where we can start planning for them now. Because if we rely on the city or the state to fund some of these needs, they may never get funded. And And just seeing the improvements that we can make in the learning environment, we really need to weigh the pros in improving the learning environment versus the pros in saving costs in healthcare, saving costs in other areas. So I really want to stress that need, that I think as a board, we really do need to start thinking about where we can start saving money to cover what I think it's about $400 million of unfunded capital projects. We're going to have to make tough decisions to fund that. And we're not going to be able to rely fully on other entities to fund that. So we really need to look at the budget in areas now that we can start saving costs in order to fund some of those really essential capital needs.
Dr. Walker?
I just had to take a minute to brag on our Chesapeake Career Center. I was so lucky to be able to spend the morning with their early childhood education class, and I learned so much about the program and what we're doing. This is a relatively new program. I think they said they're on year 3. Is that right? Of this program, but I just wanted to highlight it to the public because I don't know if people are really aware of this, but teacher turnover in the first 5 years. I mean, the statistics are staggering when it comes to burnout in those first 5 years, and it's really high. Like, we tend to lose up to 20% of teachers in their first 5 years. And so I think that what this program is doing is just so important for the future of public education and how we're preparing our elementary school teachers especially. And they're dually enrolled at TCC. They're receiving up to, I think, 16 hours of college credit, and we also have partnerships for them to be able to continue their education, to receive an associate's degree in early childhood ed, and then I learned that we're also partnered with 6 right now universities for them to be able to continue on to a 4-year. And so I just think that's amazing. The experience that they're getting so early on is exactly what we need to be able to prepare them for that classroom environment, because so often I am under the opinion that teacher preparation programs are not always doing the best job at preparing them. And so I'm just really happy to know that Chesapeake is doing everything we can, and it is part of Grow Your Own, because I asked them who's going to come teach in Chesapeake, and almost all of them said yes. So that was exciting. So anyways, thank you to the program for having me. I was so happy to see everything that you're doing. Your teacher's doing an amazing job, and I would love to see the great things that are coming your way. So kudos.
Mr. Mercer?
Yeah, the speaker from Western Branch Intermediate tonight talking about the playground. Dr. Cotton, how many playgrounds are there left that have not been updated?
Ms. Stutz can probably answer that. I want to say it was about 6 or 7. You all do know that we did receive funding in the past from the city to help us with our playgrounds, but then if you remember a year ago, I put aside $1 million to address the remaining playgrounds. Ms. Stutz, are you prepared to respond?
Yes, sir, Dr. Cotton. Technically, we have 8. One of them does include the replacement for Crestwood Intermediate that we paid for with CIP funds. So that basically leaves 7. 4 of them are full replacements, and 3 of them are supplemental or partial replacements. Risk management actually goes out and evaluates the playgrounds, and then they tell us what to do, and then we go out there and take care of it. As Dr. Cotton indicated, the board approved $1 million for the playgrounds. In fact, you approved 1 at the last board meeting. We intend to do 2 full replacements this year, and either 1 or 2 of the supplementals, and then next year we'll do another 2 and 1 or 2 of the supplementals, and then everything will have been done at the elementary school level.
Parks and Recreation had done a wonderful job of working on this, because our playgrounds after school ends become public facilities as well. And so they had the goal of making these playgrounds all updated. However, they faced budget problems as well as everybody else, and they had to withdraw from continuing on. And that's really where we reached the situation where we have these 6 to 8 playgrounds that haven't been dealt with yet. And I just wanted people to understand that we've had to look at things like Mr. McCormick said, we had to take and look where we're going to prioritize and what we're going to do. And we took $1 million this past time and are working on those playgrounds. And I know Western Branch Intermediate has to be on the list. That doesn't solve the problem if you go to Western Branch Intermediate of the pictures that she showed tonight. But it was a situation that we didn't see coming, and we're trying to address it with some limited funds that we do have. And so it may be something we want to look at if we can help a little bit more. Again, I'm well aware of what Mr. McCormick just said. There's a battle because we also want some funds, if we can, to expand this wonderful sheriff's program with the SROs in our elementary schools, and there's just a lot of need and not enough money. And so we appreciate everything that's being done by our crews and by the difficult decisions that are having to be made. But it doesn't sound very good to say you're not alone, but there are others that are in line as well.
And Mr. Mercer, I don't think I said it specifically. Western Branch Intermediate is in year 2.
It's in year 2.
This summer is Norfolk Highlands and Greenbrier Intermediate. And then the other that are a full replacement would be Greenbrier Primary, and Western Branch Intermediate would be the next year. So they're in year 2.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no additional board member items, I declare this meeting adjourned.